Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now apparently Oleksandr Usyk has never consented to allowing Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, nor does he intend to, according to his promoter, Oleksandr Usyk. This is what he had to say. According to now, the deadline is more Fury and AJ, not AJ and Usyk. There were talks about an interim title, or the AJ versus Fury winner relinquishing that WBO title the next day, but as of today, Usyk is WBO mandatory and never gave his consent for Fury vs Joshua to happen without him. Usyk is in good condition now. He successfully recovered from his last fight and looks forward to challenge for the title in the spring. A non-title fight in the interim before facing the winner of Tyson Fury vs Anthony Joshua has never been under discussion, and I really hope it never will be. So there we go, those are some interesting words from the promoter of Oleksandr Usyk. Apparently they are not going to allow this fight to go ahead. Now, this could be a ploy to maybe get a bit more money, to stand strong in their position, because they're not going to openly just say, yep, give us what you think we should deserve, then we'll step aside. They are going to stick out for the most money they can get. That is the best thing they can do for their client, Oleksandr Usyk. Now, I think that Usyk is not just about the money, he wants to fight for the heavyweight championship. That's what he wants, that is why he moved to heavyweight. And of course, because the more lucrative fights will be in that division as opposed to the cruiserweight division, of course that is factored in there also. But becoming a cruiserweight undisputed champion, then heavyweight champion, is history making for Oleksandr Usyk, so that is undoubtedly the goal for him in the future. Now, he's got this opportunity to fight for the WBO world title. He's not going to let it go by without challenging for it. Now, in the event that he does force his position, AJ, Eddie Hearn have explained they will look to relinquish that WBO world title. And in the event that that happens, the vacant title will be fought between Oleksandr Usyk and Joe Joyce. I think that Usyk does want to fight Anthony Joshua, and of course he would do, because that's not only his world title opportunity, but there's a lot more money in an AJ fight as opposed to a Joe Joyce fight. So of course he's going to want to fight AJ. And perhaps that could be factored into his decision. So, does he force his position and force Anthony Joshua's hand to relinquish the title? Yes, he gets a world title opportunity, but he doesn't get the same kind of money. But then again, what he can do, if he beats a Joe Joyce, is then going to fight the winner of AJ versus Fury. Then he does get the big bucks. Now, what Eddie Hearn did explain he would be doing is first, before going to Oleksandr Usyk, is going to the WBO. Perhaps that is the only way he sees fit to make this fight happen, because remember, Oleksandr Usyk's contract with Matchroom is now up, so he has no obligation to fight on a Matchroom platform if he doesn't want to, so he's a free agent. His next fight could be Anthony Joshua, so that would see his deal extended by one fight, but then again, it's just a fight-by-fight deal in that event, purely down to the fact that he's fighting the world champion in AJ. So, considering that, Eddie Hearn said he would go to the WBO, but I don't see how that is going to work, because the WBO after Pulev said that Eddie Hearn knows the ins and outs of a mandatory challenger, and that is currently Oleksandr Usyk, so that does tell you that the WBO will not grant the opportunity for Usyk to step aside, allowing Anthony Joshua to face Tyson Fury. So, if the WBO do stand strong with their position, then the only option is to talk to Usyk, and what they must do is try and appease Oleksandr Usyk in the meantime, offer him money, offer him opportunities to step aside and have a better deal or a better opportunity when the time comes for him to fight for his mandatory position within the WBO. Now, failing that, the only way for Undisputed to happen is for the belt to be vacated. That is the only way in which this fight goes ahead, because if Oleksandr Usyk refuses to step aside and the WBO refuses to grant the exception for AJ to fight Fury, then the WBO mandatory must have his opportunity, or the belt must be vacated in order for this undisputed fight to happen. Although in that event it would not be an undisputed fight, because the WBO belt would be absent from those world titles, and of course then the fight for Oleksandr Usyk would be Joe Joyce for the vacant title. Perhaps he thinks that Joe Joyce's style works better for him than Anthony Joshua, because in that event he can force his position, and then maybe Anthony Joshua does vacate, meaning he fights for a vacant world title against a guy like a Joe Joyce who he thinks is tailor-made for him, a guy who he beat in the World Boxing Series, which is like a semi-pro kind of tournament. So he believes he's already beaten Joe Joyce, so he can do it again. in a vacant world title fight, then he can still fight Anthony Joshua, he can still fight Tyson Fury, because he has the golden ticket to get there, which is that title. At the moment, it does seem like Oleksandr Usyk's team are not going to waver in their position to give up their mandatory position again, like they did when Anthony Joshua fought Pulev. They went and fought Derek Chisora in the interim. They don't seem to be keen to do that again, and if they do, they're going to need a lump sum of money, because Eddie Hearn did recently explain that there are some sources that Usyk is asking for a good sum of money, a greedy sum. So maybe this is their way of getting more money, and are saying to Eddie Hearn, look, this is what will happen. We want a substantial sum to step aside, otherwise we will enforce the fight, and you either pay the sum or the belt will be dropped, because we are fighting for it next. And what that does is means that this fight between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury would no longer be undisputed. So it's not done yet. Anthony Joshua could still fight Oleksandr Usyk before Tyson Fury. Having said that, I do think there are some subtle tactics from Oleksandr Usyk and his team. There are certain things going on behind the scenes. Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn seem to believe the fight is 90% done, or at least that is what Eddie Hearn has explained. For the Fury fight, there must be some way in which, though, Oleksandr Usyk is appeased in the meantime. If not, then he will have his chance to fight for the world title. But I do believe there is some bluffing involved to those comments. There is going to be. That will give his client the strongest position going into negotiations with this mandatory position. Because Eddie Hearn has already explained that they are about to go into talks with the WBO to get an exception, but if they cannot do that, then they must go to Oleksandr Usyk and find a way around it. Now, in that event, Usyk is going to want to be in the strongest position possible to demand either the highest purse to step aside or a percentage of AJ Fury, or he gets his opportunity and either fights Anthony Joshua or Joe Joyce for the vacant title. He is in a very good position, considering Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn have to go to him. He's not in the position of wanting anything from AJ necessarily, although AJ is the one with the world title, but they need more from Usyk, considering he is the one standing in the way of this undisputed fight, alongside Deontay Wilder and this mediation with a Tyson Fury. But that doesn't seem to be such a stumbling block if they are able to resolve that situation, which it should be, because Tyson Fury has had lawyers look over that deal, and they have explained he is free to go and fight whoever he wants. So that should be swiftly resolved, although it is being dragged out, but still, that shouldn't be the problem. Usyk could be the problem. That does leave him in a very strong position. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.